All right, let's get Danielle on. All right, we are going to get Danielle ready to rock and roll. And super excited to share Danielle's story and talk about Danielle DeFelice. She has a fantastic story, and I'm excited for her to tell it during this Facebook Live. So let's see as soon as Danielle is able to join us. And just to remind you, the whole purpose of this Facebook Live series, we're launching this book here on November 21st. All proceeds go to PB&J for USA to provide meals to those less fortunate. And we really are excited to more so, not necessarily more so, but I'm really passionate about getting these stories out to the universe because some of these stories are just fantastic. And Danielle specifically, and I don't want to take away too much from her, but she is a I'll tell you, like I said, I don't want to take too much away from her, but her story is called Unwed Mother. And after reading her story and, just getting a chance to know a little bit more about Danielle behind the scenes, you're going to see, I'm excited for her passion. So Danielle's about to join us. And I see her right there. So let's see. And okay, so Danielle, you need to be on your phone. That's the thing. So let's let me message her directly. Just a moment. And just to kind of let you know what her bio, she has an associate's degree in data processing and is certified Microsoft professional. Over the years, she's held a variety of different jobs that ensure for her to support her now 2 grown children. Her top priority was keeping a roof over her head, food on the table, setting a positive example for them. And for the past 5 years, she's been a buyer for Cisco International Food Service, and while helping her autistic son complete his associate's degree in liberal arts. And bam, so her passions is baking. So that's a fun fact. And when one of the companies she was working with has been dissolved, she started selling cookies from her home as a source of supplemental income. And now she's the owner of a growing home baking business called Divine Cookie Designs. Divine Cookie Designs, pretty awesome title there. And right now, it's her hope is to share her story and to inspire more people and to continue to help single moms that are struggling to raise their kids on their own. Just remind yourselves that never doubt yourself, make your kids a priority. And I'm super excited to have her share her message. So it looks like it says inviting right now, Danielle. So it's probably asking you to click a button to accept the invitation, if you could hear me. All right, so let's try this one more time. So bring Danielle on camera. So Danielle, it should say on your screen right now to accept invite. Bam, it says connecting. There you are. You did it.
Hey!
You
Oh
did
my God,
it.
that was so.
How cool is technology, right?
I know, right? And then
Well,
you kind of you don't keep up with it when you're my age. Sorry.
that's what we're here for. We are here to serve and to teach, and I'll tell you, I'm super excited to formally. I feel like I know you from your story and from our dialogue that we have back and forth. But I don't want to take too much away. I really want to give you the spotlight here, Danielle, and you have a really unique situation from the other moms that we did stories about. Was specifically that you have your son has autism. Is that correct?
Right. He has it's called autistic spectrum disorder now. Years ago, it was labeled as Asperger's, which is more
Hmm.
of a social and communicative it's more specific for social interaction and communication on the autistic spectrum. He's very
Got
high functioning.
Got it.
He,
How was that? I mean, if you, going back to, say, if there's a mom that's listening to the story and maybe they have a newborn that they just
hmm
found out maybe is, you know, is going to be challenged in some sort of way.
hmm
What, when you found out that with that news then, with what you
hmm
know now, what advice would you give to that person with what you know now compared to when you did find out that news?
Just don't take it as an end all beat all. I mean, when my son wasn't diagnosed with autism until after he graduated from high school, when he was about 3 years old, was when we started noticing that things were not just right. He wasn't speaking, and he was having these nuclear temper tantrums, just terrible, terrible temper tantrums. So we took him to be evaluated, and they told me that he was mentally retarded.
Mm,
That was not something I really, really agreed with, because he was able to do anything. He could climb up on the counter, get a glass, climb down, get milk. It wasn't that he couldn't do anything, it's just he couldn't tell you what he wanted. So
mm,
when people tell you the specific diagnosis, trust your instincts. Don't just accept that diagnosis. Just, you know your kid better than anybody else, and never stop challenging them to break through the barriers of what somebody may or may not label them with.
mm,
He just he's always had these moments where we would just have these huge breakthroughs, and he would struggle for a little while, and then he would be like, next thing you knew, whoa, what just happened? He just broke through that. So
mm,
don't ever give up. Stay on top of him. Get them the education. The school systems are a lot more now than they were in previous years about getting kids labeled, but and I hate to say labeled, because, and I actually had a conversation with a young lady at work who's just starting to go through this with her son, who's just started kindergarten. And even though they want to quote unquote label them, at least get them on an individual education plan.
mm.
They the individual education plan in the school system makes they get monitored, they get services, they get and they track them, and then you have the ability to make sure that the education that they're getting is what they need. And if not, you have every right to speak up and say, I don't want this, I want this. He went through some uh, occupational therapy, he went through speech therapy. He had a lot of services available to him for that IEP. And in his IEP, throughout school, one of the things that was really important was that he was going to be able to graduate with a diploma rather than a certificate of completion, because that's what they'll do to the kids if you don't push. And in the state of Florida, they had to pass they had to pass the FCAT to graduate when he was going through. I don't know if that still holds true,
Yeah, I believe
but
so.
um, he wasn't able to pass the language portion of the FCAT because of his disability. So the IEP protected him, and he was able to apply for a waiver, which he was approved for, and he graduated with a diploma instead of having taken the GED, which was just
Mm,
another test that he wasn't going to be able to pass. So he went, got his diploma, and then he was able to go on and take college courses. And he graduated with an associate's degree. It took him 5 years, but it was, it'll take anybody 5 years, whether they have a disability or not. It depends on the personality sometimes.
mm.
So
And Danielle, it's really interesting to hear how much you said like he did this, he did this. I got to lead to believe you were in the corner doing some stuff during this process.
yeah,
I'd like to
I stayed
I'd like
on
to
top of him.
for a moment because I think the true hero. Don't get me wrong, he is definitely a big time player in this role. And just for those of you guys that are just tuning in, so regardless of names, but Danielle's son had Asperger's with autism symptoms, social in not, I guess, inadequacy or an unnormalcy or disability, whatever word, it doesn't matter what label we put on it, but whatever. So he had a label that society says, but regardless of that label that society says, Danielle put him into an individual education plan and now has his associate's degree, went through the education system. And my question is for a parent, because you're really the superstar of the story, is that for those that didn't read the story yet, you got into a pretty bad fight with his father, if I read this correctly, and decided to leave. How old was your son at this point?
He was, I think he was about 9 or 10.
So he already had some of these symptoms at this point?
Yeah, he was already, I mean, we had him in the public school system from the time he was 3 years old.
So he has these symptoms, and you get into a fight, and you said, you know what? I don't even know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to put my entire dreams, all my goals, my life on hold to get out of this situation to provide a great life for my son. And if you didn't do that, which many parents wouldn't do in that situation, they would just stay in that environment. Who knows, being in that environment, what that could have done for your son. But you are the real hero for this because you created this space and the environment for him to grow in. So I wanted to highlight that. How did that decision making come about, as far as, like, you know, people get in fights all the time, but you got in this fight, it was a bad one, and you said, you know what? I want to create a better life for my son. I want to create a better opportunity for my family. And I don't even know how this is going to work out, but I know it's the right thing to do. Can you walk us through or feel into that for us just for just a moment?
Well, I have a daughter too, and she's on the other end of the spectrum. She graduated 12th in her class, has a college degree and a master's degree in psychology. So she's there too. She's right there with me, helping me with
He was
him.
not at that point. How old was she?
She's 19 months older than him. So she was about 11, 12.
So they're right in that same age range.
Yeah, they were really close growing up. And I'm grateful that I actually had her first, because she could communicate with him better than anybody. She could always tell me what he was trying to say.
And she went somewhere, I'm sure.
Huh?
I said she had to learn that somewhere.
Well, they had a connection, which was really made it easier. And even to this day, they still have that connection. I can always call her up and say, I don't know what's going on, brother. You need to talk to him. Mm-hmm. So, but they at that time had both contracted chickenpox, both at the same time, and they were, getting over it, and there was a fight, and I'm like, here my kids are sick, and I'm trying to help them get better, and he's just causing all of this chaos in our lives, and I'm just not going to do this for them. I'm not going to do this to them anymore. They had already seen enough, with the turmoil, because it had gone on for a lot of years. They had already seen enough and experienced enough. And I just said, no, I'm not going to do this. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to me. I got to figure this out, and I got to do it for them. Mm. It was just that last fight that just put me over the edge, especially because they were sick, and what a time to be, causing issues. No, you're not going to cause issues when my kids are not feeling well.
And if I remember reading the story correctly, you recently lost your job at this point in time too.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I was working at my parents' ice cream shop. We had opened a small business, and he was our sole support, and he lost his job because he decided he thought I was having an affair, and he stalked me one night and did a no-call, no-show. There was just so much a person can take. Mm. And I was relying on him to take care of us, and he couldn't do that. And then my kids were sick, and he didn't have the respect for them to just not be so focused on himself and cause us issues. And I just said that was enough. It's gone. We're done.
Mm.
It wasn't easy. I mean, there were plenty of times where felt like I could be manipulated and go back, but I had to stay strong for them because I saw their faces that night and they were scared and I didn't want them to be scared anymore.
Mm.
So
It takes a lot of courage to leave what some people might call security. And it really, sometimes security is not so secure.
No.
And
Years after, it was a few years. My daughter she wasn't happy with the choice because she was kind of daddy's girl. And it took her a few years to come to terms. And one day she did say to me, you're a lot calmer now than you were when you were with Dada. She said, I think I like you better now. I'm like, okay, good.
Good.
So you
have the approval, which is good. And sometimes that's a tough decision in itself. It's like we want to seek approval to those that care about us and are around us. But I just recently heard that Henry Ford, all of the people that told him, they said, we want to make faster horses. So if he listened to all the people that said we want faster horses, who knows what would have happened. So sometimes we have to make decisions regardless of whatever people want. We have to do what's right, and what we have the courage and the strength and the clarity and the vision to like kind of pursue. And it seems like you had that, even though you didn't necessarily know how things were going to work out, but you knew what was right. You had clarity of like, okay, I know this is the right thing to do. I don't know what's going to happen, but it eventually worked out. Time heals everything, and time tells the truth. And the truth is that you have enough moral courage and inner strength to raise your kids without an abusive relationship, which is inspiring. And I think a lot of people that hear this and read your story are going to say, you know what, I'm better than this, and it's scary and it's tough to take that risk, but I'm capable. And sometimes you got to jump off the edge to realize you can fly, I guess. Sometimes you have to, you don't need to know how it's going to unfold, but it seems like you did that. I'd like to know, fast forward, so you had your two kids, it was a 9-year-old and 11-year-old, somewhere in that range, you get this big fight, you say, screw it, I'm done, it's the last straw, I'm leaving you, I'm taking the kids, and forget about the job, forget about the business, I'm just going to make stuff happen. You struggled for a bunch, and then things just kind of started working in your favor. And how were you able to sustain the house and the life? In your story, you were only getting $200 a month from the kid's dad. How did sustain, like, did you ask for help? Was help there? Was it parents or friends, or did you have to ask? That sometimes people have an ego and they don't want to ask for help, so they let their ego get in the way. Like, did you set that aside and ask for help? Like, how did that unfold? Were there like some other partners that supported you in this?
No, I have my parents were there whenever I needed it. There was my first Christmas separated. I had just started my job and I didn't know how I was going to get Christmas presents for my kids. And I know my parents would have probably stepped up and done it for me, but I've always hesitated to ask for too much for my parents. And a friend of mine got a donation from a church that year, and we got $200, and I bought the kids Christmas presents, and I was so grateful for that. I cried. Sorry.
That's a good friend. Is that friend's life?
And it was, I will cherish it forever. She got me there, and then I am a firm believer of living within your means. My house is not big, it's small, but my mortgage is manageable. We've been in the house since my son was, I think he was like 9 months old when we came into the house. So they've grown up in this house. That's the only house that they've ever known. So, I've never had a fancy car. I live within my means, and I take pride in that, just to make sure. I mean, if you can have all the extravagant stuff, but what is it? It's just stuff. The priority is to make sure that the roof is over the kids' heads, the food's on the table, and they have clothes on their backs, and they have everything that they need. So everything that I wanted for myself automatically went on hold. But staying in the house that I had, I got it in the divorce, and maintained to make sure that I always had the money to pay the house. And I don't know, like I said, just living within your means. Don't think that you have to have this right now. You'll have it. You'll have it down the road. Be patient, but do the things that you've got to do now and worry about what's coming later. So
That's great advice. That's great advice, because because sometimes people want immediate gratification and they're not willing to delay the momentary satisfactions that they get from the short term. So that's great advice. I love that. So aligning your priorities with your kids and your kids' futures, and having enough patience to say, you know what, we don't necessarily need this stuff right now. What we need is, we need love, we need connection, we need education, we need to provide support, a healthy environment, shelter, like satisfy certain other needs. And it seems like some grace came your way. If you don't mind, I mean, I think we should highlight that friend. I think that friend needs some notoriety. Do you remember that person? I'm sure you do.
Ms. Katie Price.
Katie Price.
I lost touch with her for a few years, but I've recently been back in touch with her just a few months ago. But I talked to her lately. And I've been thinking, oh my God, I gotta get in touch with Katie. I keep forgetting. I stay pretty busy right now.
What a great.
I do want a shout out though, because one of Michael's teachers is watching. My son's teacher, she's watching, Miss Blackburn. She was fantastic with him when he was in 4th and 5th grade. She was wonderful, and I appreciate every teacher that he ever had, because they put up with a lot from me. I was always, maintaining, I guess, watch over what he was doing in school and making sure that his education was #1 priority. So, you Miss Blackburn.
Love that. And what's so great is you're offering them a gift, just like they were offering you. They were giving you the gift of means, of financial means, or the gift of education or patience or support, but you offered them a gift also. And I think that sometimes people neglect to realize that there is reciprocation, and sometimes people cannot be a hero. Like, they don't have an opportunity to be a hero, but you positioned Katie and Ms. Blackburn to be heroes. And that is such a great gift, because when we feel good, we're rich. When we feel grateful, when we feel abundant and appreciative of anything in life, we're rich. How many times do we know someone who has so much money and has everything they want, but they're miserable? We see it in celebrities all the time. They're miserable. We have people in our world. I just had the conversation earlier today of Robin Williams. He had kids. He has a wife. He's loved in every country around the world, and he hung himself. I mean, he was miserable inside. And I just think about how we define wealth and how we define rich is really just feeling good. And you offered that gift to those really special people, because you were willing to receive. Because you were willing to receive their gift, they were able to receive a beautiful gift in return. And that takes setting the ego aside. And you were able to do that as an independent, strong, single mom, which is why we wanted to highlight your story. And I thank you for being vulnerable. I thank you for sharing your story. It is called Unwed Mother. It is chapter 1, which is really great. So chapter 1, Unwed Mother. This book right here is going to launch on November 21st. I'll post a link for anyone that wants to pre-order and be able to check out Danielle's story along with everyone else's story. And if someone says, Danielle, I loved your story, and they say, wow, I have a son or a daughter who is labeled as disabled, what if they wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to connect with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, through here on Facebook would be probably the best, just because so I have mixed feelings about social media, but it is a really kind of a good way to keep connected with people.
Mm.
I use media for my cookie business, and it's keeping me very, very busy, more
Tell us
busier.
about that. Tell us about the cookie business.
I have a small home
Divine
business
Cookie
right.
Designs.
Yep, Divine Cookie Designs. I do cookies, custom cookies, cake pops, and cupcakes for all occasions. And basically, I just take people, they come to me, they say, I want cookies for my party. And I say, tell me what you need, and I'll do whatever you ask me to do. And they're always a big hit. So it's growing. It's keeping me super, super busy. And I hope to, at some point, be able to take it to the next level, have a retail store. My mother has helped me write a business plan, and we're looking for grants because the business plan is written so that 70% of my workforce will be from the intellectually challenged community, autistic people, even high functioning Down syndrome, anybody that has that kind of disability. I want to give them an opportunity to be productive, to have a safe work environment, to be able to just feel accepted. Because I've seen the struggles with my son even when he graduated, there are there's not a lot of places that people with disabilities like his can work. And even now, he's still not working full time. He's working at Legoland part time, which Legoland is one of the organizations is wonderful with disabled people. McDonald's for 8 years. McDonald's, they do okay with disabled people, but unfortunately, they have a lot of turnover in their management, and sometimes their management is not educated on how to deal with the people, because there's a lot of autistic people have sensory issues, and they get overloaded, and as long as you know what the signs are, you can diffuse it before it becomes a meltdown, sort of.
And we've got to ask you. I agree with Sandra, by the way. I'm assuming Sandra's one of your friends. She says, "You go, girl. You got this." So I agree, and I love what Adrian just said too. Another co-author for the book. What a wonderful idea for business model. I agree. And my question is, I'm sure other people are watching the same thing. Where can we try some of these delicious cookies and cake pops? I love cake pops. Those are delicious. So
right now, I just have a Facebook page. It's called Divine Cookie Divine Divine Cookie Designs. It's right here on Facebook. I used to do some craft shows, but it just was very time consuming. So really, all I do now is I do custom orders, and then around the holidays, I take cookies and cake pops into work, and people just snap them up. I mean, they go like hotcakes, and I love.
So say if someone's watching, do you ship? Do you ship them outside of Florida? Is there a site that they can order from, or?
Well, Facebook pages are free. They're and so they function almost exactly like a website. You don't have to pay anything.
That is true.
So I get messages, and people just message me because everything is customized. So I want to make sure that I'm asking the questions and getting all the information from my customers so that I can create, exactly what they're looking for to fit their occasion.
And what are some examples of an occasion? So say if someone wants like Thanksgiving cookies or anything.
I have options on my page right now for Thanksgiving cookies and cake pops customized with names that you can put on your table as plate cards.
Hot move. I like that, Danielle. Adrian wants to know, do you have any opportunities for vegans or gluten-free alternatives by chance, or is this just delicious?
I'm dabbling. However, with the vegan and the gluten-free, you almost have to like you can't do any cross contamination. So if you're going to be gluten free, you got to be almost completely gluten free, because there's flour in the air. There's there's kind of restrictions.
So
So
why is that? So you could put like maybe an asterisk, like almost vegan, like made with almond milk and made with something like alternative oils versus butters or something.
right. Well, anything with vegan, you want to use like I think a harvest. I forget what it's called. It's harvest grain or something. There's different butters that are out there that I use. And then gluten free, use a gluten free flour, or
So
use
from here, right,
almond.
you could do that. So if somebody said, I'd like to get some gluten-free or vegan orders, so Jessica says gluten sensitive versus gluten-free.
Mhm.
I've tried your gluten-free and they were great. So Jessica, there you go. That helps a lot, which is awesome. And good for you doing your homework on that. Cross-contamination is important. So that's fantastic. Look at you. I think that if it's okay, is if I put the Facebook link in our notes, so I'll put it in there, and then
Absolutely.
send people to message you to get some information, because I believe that some of these individuals are going to hear this story and hear your cause and say, wow, I would like to help provide jobs to the autistic community, and I would love to provide, instead of buying from Publix, I'd like to buy, or your local grocery store, I'd like to, purchase my holiday cookies from this awesome human being who had the courage to raise two great kids who are college educated, because she was willing to set her personal priorities aside to make her kids her number one priority, make sure that they had a great life. And now that they have a great life and a great foundation for their life, you can now move forward and build even a stronger foundation for your personal life as you maybe become a grandma and keep the legacy. Or is that, I don't know if that's in the future, or
I hope so. I hope my daughter's watching right now. She's probably like, heck no. But I really do hope for both of them that they get to experience that. And like my son, I would love for him to find someone special and to start a family. I've asked him. He does want that. So,
that's great.
but socially, he's not ever had a girlfriend. He's going to be 26. So, I mean, he's just a little
I'll put that out there. I'll put that out there too. Hey, buy your gluten sensitive vegan cookies, or just delicious, your choice, and also get a date with.
Someday, I'm sure whoever it is going to be. It's going
a
to
lucky
be a
person.
very special person, and is going to be very lucky because he's got a kind heart.
I love that. Well, Danielle, I appreciate your courage. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. Again, Unwed Mother, Chapter 1. It's going to launch this book right here. It's going to launch on November 21st, which is next Tuesday. You could pre-order. I'll put the link in. It's on Amazon right now. You can pre-order the book. All proceeds, 100% of proceeds from this story goes to feed those less fortunate through PB&J for USA and PB&J for Tampa Bay. We have 3 feeding frenzies next week to provide some meals for Thanksgiving. We are last year at this time, we provided over 10,000 meals during this time last year. So we're trying to see if we can rival that a little bit. We provided 1,800 meals a couple weeks ago. So we just hit our milestone of over 50,000 meals that we provided now. And, we just want to keep spreading the word while making a positive change. And it takes leaders like you to be courageous enough to share your story and pick up the book. Check it out. Buy a few for friends, and we love spotlighting individuals like you. So Danielle, thank you for your time and your efforts and your energy and your courage of being a strong, independent single mom. And our next story is going to be on Tuesday evening with Corey. And this story is just unbelievable. It's called Held Captive. It's Chapter 2. And might be, not just in this book, but might be one of the most exceptional stories I've ever read in my life. And that's that's a crazy statement, but I will tell you, when I was reading the story to
my now wife and her family last year around this time when I first heard it, everyone at the kitchen table was bawling their eyes out, crying. And this is Tuesday evening. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's a fantastic story, and I'm excited for her to tell it in her words. So thank you again, Danielle. Thanks for everybody else tuning in. I'll put all this on our comments so everyone can find the links. And if you could send me the link to Divine Cookie Designs, I'll post that. That'd be fantastic. So have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll.
Thank you to you for doing this and for letting me to be a part of it, because what you're doing is pretty awesome too.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. You know, we all have a calling and we're all on a mission and we're all here together. So I just have a great platform, and why not use it? So thank you again, Danielle, and I appreciate the kind words, and we'll talk soon. I'll post everything.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.